Well, some will say it's just an international friendly, but there is a lot to take away from what we just saw on the pitch as the United States men's national team falls to Japan 2-0 in an international friendly being played in Germany. This is the first of two in the next few days. Up next is Saudi Arabia in Spain on Tuesday. But it'll be interesting to see what adjustments will be made by Greg Berhalter, not only what he already made in game, but moving forward as we get ready for Qatar in about 8 weeks' time. What's good, streaming people? Tommy Tran here, CBS Sports HQ in studio with Tomas Rangan, former USMNT lead scout. So there's a lot to break down and there's a lot to focus on, TR, but what's your big takeaway from what we saw?
I know it's late, but this is a real wake-up call, Tommy. This could have been and should have been 4 or 5-0. If this is Harry Kane, it will be 5. If this is Gareth Bale, and by the way, we're playing Wales in that first game, it will be 4 or 5 as well. And Japan, just in all phases of the game, Tommy, from the start to the end, the superior team. That's a team that's 10 rankings lower than the U.S. U.S. at 14, Japan at 24, but give them some credit, by the way. The pressure, the relentless pressure led to that first goal as well. Poor turnover by Weston McKennie, very sloppy, by the way, throughout 90 minutes for him. And that second goal, just by great build-up and just poor individual group and team defending on that second goal. If it wasn't for Matt Turner, it could have been 3 or 4. And now, yes, you're going to talk about Tim Ream. Yes, you're going to talk about Anthony Brooks. 2 left-footers that are better passers. Forget about that high line. They're not athletic enough, in my opinion. You need to look at Pifok, because you know what, Ferreira? You get that one chance on the cross from Dest, 7 minutes in, boom, Pifok will bury that. Where's the plan B when we struggle, Tommy? All right, in not being able to play through pressure. So you got to go more direct and you got to insert then some athleticism. 1 point, Musa, Weah, Pulisic will make a difference going forward for this team. But for Greg Berhalter, a lot of questions.
Let's bring in Grant Wall, who's in Dusseldorf, witnessed what we saw in that 2-0 result. Grant, what were your big takeaways of what you saw play out on the pitch?
You know, from the start, just so much pressure from the Japanese players up front, and the U.S. central defenders couldn't handle it. The U.S. kept losing the ball from the start of the game, and there's going to be questions about, are Aaron Long and Walker Zimmerman the right guys to be in that position against the highest level at the World Cup? And the central midfielders struggled to possess the ball. They kept losing it as well. That was more surprising to me, that Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie, who should be able to deal with this better, did not in this case. And I'm just imagining the World Cup opponents for the U.S., England, Wales, and Iran, watching this game and having their mouths water about what they saw from this U.S. team today. This was a very discouraging performance in that way.
Yeah, and to add to that, Greg, you're absolutely right. The Long, Zimmerman pairing is the 10th game they've played together. I know you're loyal as a coach. I was loyal to certain players. But you're also going to say, you know what? This is not good enough. I might have to go somewhere else. A guy that might not have been part of my 3 or 4 year preparation, so to speak. Dest, rusty on that right side, gets subbed, obviously. Giorena, no real impact. But again, he's not played much in the Bundesliga. Ferreira, just not an international top-notch striker, in my opinion. So more questions than answers now. With one more game to go against Saudi, piggyback towards Brendan. I agree. McKennie and Adams, 2 trusted soldiers, and 2 guys that be very good for Greg Berhalter, were below average today. And that's the engine room, Tommy, on both sides of the ball. And if they struggle, this team will struggle.
I think for everyone that watched that match, of course, you mentioned below average. If there was a guy above average, of course, it would have been Matt Turner. Grant, what do you think about the clarity perhaps at the goalkeeper position, obviously, with Matt Turner today, and how that falls into Horvath, Stefan, and company?
Matt Turner had a pretty good game today, I thought. He made some good saves, made the score not as bad as it could have been and maybe should have been. Matt Turner's a great shot stopper, and I understand that Zach Steffen may be better with his feet, and the coaching staff of the U.S. thinks that and probably leans towards Steffen if he's healthy over Turner at the World Cup. But honestly, I would lean toward Turner at this point. I think he's much more reliable, doesn't make mistakes, and shot stopping should be the most important thing for a goalkeeper. So I think Matt Turner actually is one of the few bright spots that you can talk about with the U.S. today.
Yeah, I agree with Grant. Interesting part, though, is Stefan is injured, but played the last game, by the way, a full 90 minutes as well. And Stefan is still considered because Zach Stefan played for Berhalter at the Columbus Crew. There's a relationship there for years, Tommy. And I still think, although Matt Turner should be the number one, that Zach Stefan, if he gets games, more games leading up to the World Cup, could still be the number one.
That was one of the great stats. The U.S. was dispossessed in the defensive half 54 times in 45 minutes. 4 substitutions were made there, Tomas. Let me ask you, how much do you think were pre-planned and were tactically based out of the changes that Berhalter made at the half?
I think at least 2 are pre-planned. Gio Reyna, obviously, don't want him send him back to Dortmund injured. Give him a few more minutes in the Saudi Arabia game. Dest, who hasn't played for AC Milan or for Barcelona, because of game fitness, got drawn as well. And, you want to look at some depth there as well. I thought Sam Vines actually talked about one guy quietly that was okay on the day because Robinson wasn't there. Anthony Robinson obviously is the starter. But Vines might have actually booked his ticket to Qatar with a pretty solid performance on that left side. But just looking again at all those circumstances, I'm not so sure where he's going to go from here.
I think there's going to be some real questions about 0 shots on goal for the U.S. in this game because they had a couple of shots, but Ferreira should have put the shot on frame he had in the first half. That was a great chance. I think Jordan Pefok might have finished. Josh Sargent had a chance to put a shot on goal in the second half, could not do that either. So 0 shots on goal is a real concern for the U.S. And obviously they were missing Christian Pulisic and Yunus Musa today. But I think the main storyline is that even if those guys had been on the field, I don't think the ball would have gotten to them that often to really get in dangerous positions. And so I know Japan's a good team, but they generally have been viewed as on sort of the same level or slightly below the U.S. over the years, and they were clearly better than the U.S. today. Not a full-strength Japanese starting lineup, by the way, either. And so I think there's going to be more pressure than maybe we thought there would be on the U.S. heading into the Saudi Arabia game. They need to have a good performance before the World Cup.
Yeah, and going back to you, Tommy, in terms of losing possession in that first half, 54 times, more than since 2010, and also 12 times in their defensive third. So now you're going to question, if you're down 1-0, let's say against Wales, right, in that second half, and you need to go to plan B because we've struggled playing out of the back. We keep losing the ball. I need some directness. A bigger body like Haji Wright or Pefok would be the answer, in my opinion, to come off the bench at least, to create chaos or war, let's put it that way, inside the 18-yard box. And as Grant said, we never really got inside the 18-yard box to give our front three an opportunity to do anything due to the fact that Japan pressed so well and we were so poor on the ball.
A frustrating result, obviously, everyone that watched, and especially on the West Coast early in the morning. Grant, one more before I let you go. If you get a chance to talk to Greg Berhalter between now and Saudi Arabia, what's the one big question you'd like to ask him ahead of the next friendly here?
How much do you actually consider making serious changes based on a friendly in this position? It's a friendly that's 2 games before the World Cup, and so knowing Berhalter, my sense is he's going to stick with his guys. But, if he does, there's some real alarms going off after this game about how can these center backs handle pressure that Berhalter has chosen from opposing teams. Because if Japan can do this, other teams at the World Cup can too, and the U.S. has to figure that out.
Grant, certainly appreciate it. Thanks for joining us from Dusseldorf. And again, we'll try to catch up with you on Tuesday as well, ahead of the next friendly with the USMNT. We talked about it. It was bad to see it play out on the pitch, Tomas, but I guess it's better to find out now than 8 weeks from now at the group stage and then be befuddled. Final word for you here moving forward.
The final word for me is that it starts really with those 2 center backs on both sides of the ball. And let's say one of the 2 teams in MLS they play in MLS, goes to the finals. Greg Berhalter is holding camps to keep MLS players fit. That includes Ferreira, Morris, obviously, because there's such a big window between the end of the MLS season and the start of the World Cup, whereas the European players have about a week to come in. I say right now, Greg Berhalter, whoever is the sharpest and informed guy in whatever position, you got to consider starting them.
All right. Tomas Rangan, appreciate it. You're also here this morning before the match. Again, thanks to Grant Wall from Dusseldorf, Germany, the site of today's international friendly. And again, for the USMNT, short turnaround for them. The next match against Saudi Arabia, and then all eyes will be at Qatar, Wales, the big one against England, of course, and then Iran. Today it was 2-0 Japan. The Blue Samurai getting the best of us with Kamada and Mitoma scoring the 2 goals. In Soccer We Trust, Jimmy Conrad, Charlie Davies, and Heath Pierce, the guys will have you covered, and boy, will they have a lot to talk about after this one. Make sure to catch their pod and scan that QR code now.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.